A pleasant good morning to everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Coles Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. Earlier on today's show, 2 hours earlier, but that's okay. The show still will go on. Here's what's coming up on today's show. The guest menu looks like this. We have made a way to get a hold of Coach Van Pettaway, albeit it'll be from the moving mobile phone. We'll talk to Coach Van Pettaway. He'll join me in hour number one. Hour number two, Charles Edmond, of course, of the Alcorn State Radio Network. He will join me. A huge matchup on the basketball court today. Southern University makes the trip to Lorman, Mississippi. What's the saying where the water is a little bit sweeter, the grass is a little bit greener? Okay, get in there, Southern, and you only have two jobs to do. Win and win on the women's side and the men's side. We'll break down the particulars, but at the end of the day, do something to make me feel better. And next week, I want to be all smiles. And it's going to be tough at the reservation. But it is a crucial game for Southern University and Alcorn State, both on the women's side and the men's side. Then in hour number two as well, I hadn't talked to Marlon Rogers in a while from Recruit the Boot. He'll join me in hour number two to take a specific look at Southern University's recruiting class. This week, he'll focus on the in-state signees. So Marlon Rogers will Recruit the Boot, Charles Edmond, and Coach Van Pettaway on this bright and beautiful morning in the capital city of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Here's what's trending on the Carlos Brown Show. The SWAC Council of Presidents and Chancellors announced Charles McClellan a contract extension. We'll dig deeper into that, but congratulations to Dr. McClellan. Most of the people that I've talked to, they applauded this move, an extension. We'll get into particulars in a minute, but congratulations, Dr. McClellan, an extension as the commissioner of the Southwestern Athletic Conference. Also, the 2020 baseball tournament, well, I talked about it a couple of weeks ago. Got a whiff of it. It's now official. The tournament will be played in Jackson, Mississippi. And I want to get your feedback on the movement of the SWAC baseball tournament. I'll give you my thoughts on it. I'm a team player, believe it or not. I will take a moderate position on everything. Give it a chance. See how it goes. Look at the data afterwards, and make a discussion about it. I can give you an opinion up close, firsthand, but the data will show the facts. So, the 2020 baseball tournament officially in Jackson, Mississippi. We'll come back to that trending story. Also, SWAC Media Day 2020 will be held in Atlanta, Georgia, in conjunction with the gala that the Southwestern Athletic Conference is going to be putting on. So, for those in the media, hey, get the rental car ready or get the airplane ticket. You're going to Atlanta. And we'll come back to the particulars on that. And then finally, Southern University Baseball opens up their SWAC conference play. Pick to win it all, but I'll just tell you this. It is a young team at Southern University, a baseball team, but guess what? They have the bullseye on their back. And in a couple of weeks, maybe even next week, we'll start kind of looking at the top teams in the conference. If you kind of had your top four, maybe a little bit early to do that, but Southern over Prairie View, 3-2. 3-2, Southern University. So, off to a good start in conference play. They'll continue game 2 today against Prairie View A&M at 2 p.m. at Prairie View A&M. That's what's trending on today's show. We'll also recap Southern University basketball last week. Wow, what a wild finish in Huntsville. And Coach Pettaway, I'm sure, was there. He'll give us his expert analysis on a shot at the end for Alabama A&M, and they defeated Southern University women. Southern University women went 1-1 on the road. That's a split, and that's what you want this late in the season. By the way, we'll look at the conference race. What have we been talking about most of this conference race? It will literally come down for positioning in the final games, which is Saturday and Monday. Then you have, Thursday and then Saturday. That's it. Conference season is over. Southern men's basketball team, they go on the road and get 2 double-digit victories in the state of Alabama, and as I stated earlier, big matchup in Lorman, Mississippi. So, with that being said, let's go back to our trending stories. Let me do this, though. Dr. Prince, good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, sir. How are you this morning?
I'm doing fine. Hadn't did an 8 o'clock show in a while, at least since the Celebration Bowl. But
hey, you know what?
Still here.
Let me explain to the people. I appreciate you, as you say, being a team player. There is a special event that's going to be taking place earlier today, and it's going to actually have President Dr. Charles McClellan. He'll be in Houston, and so we're going to be there for that. And you said, hey, man, let's make it happen. So I appreciate you doing that, man. But it's a beautiful morning anyway, though. It's good. Feel good to be up early.
Yeah. Finally, the rain has stopped in the capital city of Louisiana. So you're happy about that, and you have the rest of your day to kind of relax and enjoy your weekend.
Yes, sir.
So we appreciate everyone making the adjustment as well. And as always, you can go back and listen to this show. It's live now. But I hear from quite a few of you who, you go back and listen to it. If you miss it live, it's on demand. So,
and that's the beauty of this thing. That's the beauty of this thing, man. People do go back, they track it, and they listen. And while I got the chance, Carlos, let me just say thank you not only to your listeners and supporters, but to the Open Mic listeners and supporters. In 2019, we had over 250,000 listeners and over 36,000 downloads. So we must be doing something right.
Yeah. Congratulations.
Well, no. Yeah. Congratulations to you, sir, and to everybody that helps make this thing, because one man cannot perfect anything. It takes teamwork to make a dream work.
Yeah, teamwork, one for the team. Okay, let me calm down. But SWAC Council Presidents and Chancellors announced McClellan's contract extension. The Southwestern Athletic Conference Council Presidents and Chancellors has voted unanimously on a 5-year contract extension. 5-year, boy.
That's a good one, isn't it?
Yeah, at Southern University, 5-year contract extension. What is that? What is that? No, you won't get it up front. And guess what? Dr. McClellan comes in with the original contract and then gets an extension. He does get an extension. It's just on the back end, if we can use that term.
Right.
And boy, I tell you, I still fight with people literally about that with contract extensions. But on a 5-year contract extension for SWAC Commissioner, Dr. Charles McClellan, this extension will run through 2025 academic year, and it was announced on Tuesday afternoon. Here's a quote from SWAC Council President and Chancellor's Chairman, Dr. Andrew Hewen Jr. He says, in the past 2 years, the Southwestern Athletic Conference has made significant strides under the direction of SWAC Commissioner Dr. Charles McClellan. We could not be more excited about the future of this historic conference, particularly during its centennial under the leadership of Dr. Charles McClellan. So hats off to Dr. McClellan, and I know it's not an easy job because to me, from the outside looking in, you got to be balanced. You can't go too far to this side, you can't go too far to the right side. You kind of got to have that straight down the middle attitude. And in light of what's happening throughout college athletics, it's always changing, and I'm sure he gets a lot of questions about expansion and with North Carolina A&T leaving the MEAC. What will happen in the Southwestern Athletic Conference? Will they add? Will they subtract? And all of that, he's got to maintain the day-by-day operations and then be an ambassador for the conference. So hey, I applaud Dr. McClellan for doing the best that he can in this situation. So 5-year extension, outstanding.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Very much
outstanding. So he's locked in.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt.
Well, he's locked in. And, you know, commissioners are human, just like everybody else. They will make mistakes sometimes. Try not to make too many. You have to answer the Council of Presidents. And then you're an ambassador, as I stated earlier. Then you're working closely with the Director of Athletics. You listen to coaches. I'm thinking they have to have an ear to listen to a lot of times.
No doubt. Any good leader is going to always at least listen. You might not be able to respond nor react right away, but if you have an ear to hear what the people are saying, you can better lead for the missions and calls of the people getting to the next level. So you got to have an ear open to listen. Even if you don't agree with it, you can learn something just by listening.
I would agree with that. And we've also, that leads me into a 2020 baseball tournament. We kind of talked about that a couple of weeks ago, that we were hearing that it was going to officially get done. And, hey, that's what happened this week in Will Smith Stadium. I did 2 local shows in Jackson over the years at an establishment that happens to be right in front of Will Smith Stadium. And I'm trying to pull it up, bear with me. But that's where the 2020 baseball tournament is going to officially be at. Now, if I'm not mistaken, they've hosted a tournament before. They've done some things to kind of upgrade it, revamp the stadium. Looking at the press conference, which if you haven't seen it, it's on the Carlos Brown Facebook page. I have the clip of the interview. The mayor of Jackson was talking about some things that they have done, lighting and what have you. And then now they got to just come and finish up some stuff with, painting and just making sure everything is up to the standards. So in Jackson, Mississippi, Dr. Prince, Jackson, centrally located. Now it's the city's time to shine.
No doubt.
In hosting this baseball tournament.
No doubt at all. And I'm excited about it. I didn't mind going to New Orleans. I didn't mind going to Fort Worth and wherever they've had them in the various years and past. And I always said you want to be somewhere that's centrally located. And I'm not going to open up the Pandora's box early this morning, but I really believe somehow, some way, we got to figure out how to make Shreveport become the Mecca of the Southwestern Athletic Conference, because that's the bullseye middle of all said institutions where there's not much of a stress or strain to try to get there from wherever you are in this conference. But that's a whole nother show a couple of shows, if you ask me. But I'm excited about this, and the city of Jackson has invested a lot of money in the AA park that's there, and they're willing to accept and have open arms to embrace us, man. And I can't wait to see what the experience is going to be like.
Now, this tournament is scheduled to slated to run May 13th through the 17th, and will run through the 2021-22 baseball season. Here's what Dr. McClellan said, and I quote, "We're extremely excited to partner with the city of Jackson for the hosting of the SWAC baseball tournament. The mayor's office, along with Overtime Sports, truly stepped up and offered an incentive package that made it possible for us not to consider and embrace. We look forward to the growth of our baseball tournament in the city of Jackson. The league's agreement with the city of Jackson and KSG Overtime Sports will begin with the 2020 SWAC baseball tournament slated for May 13th through the 17th and will run through the 2021 baseball season. The tournament will be hosted in conjunction with KSG Overtime Sports at Smith Will Stadium, the former home of the New York Mets and Houston Astros minor league team. You know, there's always opportunity to go to Jackson. I'm so loved in Jackson.
You're a lovable guy, man.
Thank you. And an opportunity to see some good baseball in the tournament. It should be exciting. And up to that point, we'll find out the teams involved in the baseball conference season will come to an end, and then you have the SWAC baseball tournament. So Dr. McClellan, a native of Jackson, Mississippi, so he's familiar with the city and the area. I just say I personally wish them the best, and anything that we can do here to help out, please let us know. Should be an exciting time, and we'll hear from people hopefully within the show that will give us their opinion on the location, the move to Jackson, Mississippi. It'll be interesting. So a couple of ways to contact me here via the show. You can go on the Colos Brown Facebook page and leave a comment, question there. Also, Messenger, Facebook Messenger. You can leave a message there, and I'll be glad to share it with the audience. And then finally, SWAC Media Day. Moving to Atlanta, Georgia. I say it's for 2020. That's just my opinion. You think I'm off base on that? Or
no.
Dr. Prince, or we just don't have enough information to make a prediction?
I think it's a combination of both, but I think it's a highly educated guess on your part with everything that's lined up. Some people were saying, well, why not have the 100 Gala, in the Houston area, since that's where the SWAC was founded. But sometimes you have to adjust and roll with what's available, and this had been strategically planned out, and it would make better sense to go ahead and just relocate for this year in the ATL. Because I know for me, we fly into Atlanta, rent a car to drive to Birmingham anyway, so we might as well cut out step number two. Just go straight from the ATL airport to the venue and take care of business.
Yeah, that's correct. You're absolutely correct, folks. He does. Him and the missus, they do that. And I drive to Birmingham every year with my best friend, and it's a nice drive, about 5 hours from Baton Rouge. I-59 takes you, it's parallel with I-20, takes you right into, you go Hattiesburg, Laurel, Mississippi, Meridian, then Tuscaloosa, then Birmingham. Dr. Prince, I know that area like the back of my hand now. It's a nice drive.
Well, you're a seasoned old veteran, man, so you know a lot of things that we don't know.
Well, put it this way, I've learned to just make sure I do the speed limit.
There you go.
That's the big thing, boy. Heavy foot here. 90 miles an hour in a minute and don't even realize it.
You'd be like, Urkel, did I do that?
Yeah. Well, so 2020 in Atlanta. And then you can look at it as if you're going to go to the gala, then you can maybe get in like that Wednesday, rest yourself. Then Thursday they'll have Swag Media Day. Then Friday, you can make it basically 4 days.
So is that what you plan to do?
Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then if you care to leave out that Saturday, then you can do that, or you can make it the weekend as well.
Is that what you planning on doing?
I'm not that much of a high roller like that to be there 4 or 5 days.
Look, all you got to do is say, "Hey, I'm Carlos Brown," and then, "Oh, sir, do apologize and here, complimentary everything."
Maybe one day. Maybe one day. But hey, the conference is moving. Movers and shakers under the leadership of Dr. Charles McClellan. So, to recap, council presidents extend a contract extension for Dr. McClellan to 2025. The 2020 baseball tournament officially in Jackson, Mississippi, and SWAC Football Media Day in Atlanta 2020. Quickly, Southern University basketball recap. And game one on the women's side, they're in Montgomery last Saturday behind Raven White's 12 points and 4 rebounds. The Jaguars shoot 44% from the field. They take a 10-point victory over Alabama State to start off on the road. The Jaguars opened it up doing well. Then, confident going in against a hot Alabama A&M team. If we pull that information up, late game heroics were a necessity as Deshauna Harper found Miss Saunders late in the ball game for a layup with 7 seconds to play to give the Lady Bulldogs a 59-57 victory over Southern in always tough Elmore Gymnasium. The Jaguars had an opportunity to send in overtime, but fell a little short on the last shot. The Jaguars, I don't know if you should say a stunning loss, because Alabama A&M, we've been tracking them. They've been playing pretty well on a nice win streak, and it was a tough ball game when they played the last time in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. The Jaguars split on the road. That's what we've always talked about, splitting on the road. But an opportunity to get 2 on the road, they fell a little bit short, 59-57. 2 players led the way for the Jaguars. Brittany Rose, 13 points, and Lyric Scott with 13 points. The Lady Jaguars, 40% from the field. However, the men, 12-point victory over Alabama State, and that's a game that had me worried out of the two, because this Alabama State team had all of a sudden became hot as fish grease.
Yes, sir.
They were hot. And the Jaguars go in and get a 12-point victory behind Michael Bradford's 12 points. So 12 points, 12-point victory over Alabama State. Then they make the trek up north of Montgomery to Alabama A&M Huntsville, and the Jaguars just come out and just take Alabama A&M to the woodshed. 64-37 behind Ashante.
I bet you won't say that. I bet you won't say that when Coach come on.
Yes, I will. 16 points. I'm answering Dr. Prince. I don't know if they could hear you on that comment, but they took him to the woodshed. And guess what, I talked to Coach Pettaway last night. Quicker. So 64-37 over Alabama A&M, and it was a total whipping. So the Jaguars go on the road. You'll take a win whether it's 1 point or 2.
Absolutely.
But they win by 12, and then they win by 27 points?
Yeah, it was
on the road.
Convincing wins.
And guess what? All of that is fine and dandy, Dr. Prince, but you have to finish this 3-game road swing with a win against Alcorn State, which it's going to be difficult to say the least in Lorman, Mississippi.
Right. Well, they play lights out at home.
Yeah, but and there in a few minutes we'll have Coach Pettaway on. Here's my question to Coach Pettaway. We kind of discussed this earlier. From the outside looking in, when I look at this Alcorn State men's basketball team, we talked about their being efficient from behind the arc, 3-point shot. There's not a 3-point shot that they see that they don't like. But they live by the 3, they die by the 3.
Well, and they've been consistent.
Consistently inconsistent from 3-point land.
Well, I'm just saying they've been consistent. They've been consistent with their theory, living by their theory. That's what I'm talking about. They've been consistent with it. Not all days are good days, but they've said this is who we are and this is how we're going to win or lose.
And they have, they're still in it, and they could come out hot this afternoon and shoot 60% from behind the arc the first half. But what I've been noticing is one half they can do that. Then the second half, they can shoot themselves in the ball game. They can shoot themselves out. And if they can't play in the style that they're accustomed to playing, they have no backup plan at all. And teams have really, they've really caught on to how to guard them, from the perimeter. Can they do anything else? They have not been successful with that, but haven't been consistent. But like I said, it's a big game today against Southern University. Southern's right ahead of them in the standings, and some separation would be for Southern. This is a huge matchup.
Well, it's a huge matchup. It's a huge matchup, and it's also the buzz, at least that I've been receiving. The two hottest teams in the conference right now are Prairie View and the Southern Jaguars. People, they talk a lot about Texas Southern, but they say where Coach Woods has the Jags playing right now, that's really going to be one of the hottest teams coming into the tournament. So it could be a PV Southern showdown in the tournament, man. Who knows?
Well, time will tell, because we will see very shortly. Now, Southern's off Monday. And then the games are moved up Thursday and Saturday.
Right.
Because it's the final week of conference play.
Right.
Southern's in third place on both the men's and the women's side. The two teams in front of them are Texas Southern and Prairie View, and you have them at the FG Clark Activity Center. Thursday, Texas Southern. Next Saturday, Prairie View A&M. Alcorn State today. Talking with some fans, they got the one in Alabama State, which was the first hurdle. Now they've got to go on the road, the final road game in conference play, and the final of the 3-game road trip. Then you got Texas Southern and Prairie View. I believe to not lose any ground, Southern has to win today and win at least one of the remaining 2 games at home. So the last 3 games, 2-1 should keep them at least in the third seed. And what did I say at the beginning of the conference? My goal was to finish in the top 4, fourth, most likely the destination that I saw them at, or at least hope they would be at. And if they hold on to third place, and if they can not get ahead of themselves, but win the final 2 games at home in conference play, well, yeah, that tournament will be even more exciting.
No doubt.
But they got to take care of business today.
It all starts today, my friend. All starts today. And I know you and Charles are going to have a grandiose time when he comes on.
Well, I'm going to try to get him to admit, and it's going to be a tough one, that this men's basketball team with Alcorn State, you just don't know. I have contact with one particular Alcorn State fan that lives in Atlanta, and it's refreshing that this person is very objective when looking at his team on basketball.
Mm-hmm.
Now, football is another story. But basketball, I agree with what he was saying. This team has to develop more. Look, and I understand if that's what you do. You live and die by the three, and you'll let the chips fall where they may. I can understand that. That's their mantle. That's what they do. But I think if you can kind of diversify your game, and I think that would be a goal for them going forward, maybe even if it's next year.
I was going to say, you can't do that right now. You're too late in the season to try to change your identity now.
No. And I guess from the outside looking in, Coach Robinson, yes, his distractors, but I'm thinking he'll probably be back next year. Now, Coach Pruitt, the women's basketball coach, just wow. It's a tougher situation.
Yeah.
Tougher situation. You just cannot, and I guess my second assignment is to see if he can convince me and all of us that, every week I hear about this team, they can turn you over. That's the fact. They force a lot of turnovers. But offensively, they're just not good. If you could turn over teams and you get easy transition baskets, then you should be winning more. It's something's not right. I don't know.
Do you think it's psychological? You think it's psychological?
No, I just think they can't. I just think they can't put the ball in the basket consistently.
So, like I'm saying, do you think that's psychological? Do you think that's technique or lack of skill set?
I don't want to say it could be all three. I just don't know. Can't put my finger on it. And I guess from the outside looking in, but maybe Charles can tell us what's going on. Let's try to be as objective as possible.
Right. Be objective, but be realistic at the same time. And I've learned throughout the course of time, it's easy to point in the direction of the coach, okay? But you got to also point in the direction of administration that should be coaching the coach, right? Because your technology, technically speaking, the coach's coach is your AD. The AD's coach is your president. And if people understand their roles and don't try to cross over, trying to tell somebody what to do, how to do, but help them, assist them, because winning on and off the field is a little bit more than the coach and his philosophy only. That coach has to have the support. He has to have the sense of guidance even when they're struggling. And if you're doing that and it's still not happening, then maybe it's time to move on.
That'd be interesting to keep that in mind. So that's what we'll ask him with Alcorn State. But hey, on the men's side, they're right behind Southern University. Remember the top 4 teams, they secure a home game in the quarterfinals on their campus. Then you win, you move on. Speaking of moving on, Southern University lost another coach on their staff.
Really?
Coach, yeah. Mm-hmm. Safeties coach.
Wow.
He's moved on to the University of Lamar in the Southland. So, Coach Odoms has, well, what we're hearing, he's made some hires. Just got to wait till it's official. On the offensive side, and Kadarian, the safeties coach, he was at Southern one year. He came previously from McNeese. Coached at Grambling State and Tulane. He decided to move on. So, still a couple more hires on the staff that need to take place for Coach Odoms. And yes, the seat is still warm, very warm.
Had it ever cooled off?
Had
it ever cooled off?
No, but it would have been A-okay if you just would have got one chance, just one. out of the last 2 years. But got another opportunity to start it over and try to get back to that spot and then try to kick the championship door in. So we'll follow everything, Atlanta, of course, with Coach Olin. That's right. I hear a voice saying Atlanta bus. I hadn't changed that one iota. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. That's the goal.
Oh,
that's the goal.
You're standing over his bed at night talking about Atlanta or bust. Atlanta or bust. Atlanta or bust. I'm having nightmares. It's just me, brother, making sure you're on course.
Yeah, well, you've got to get to Atlanta. You got to get a championship, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, you got to win the games you're supposed to win. Don't lose the games that you're favored to win, and don't lose them. But practice will start April 1st, and it's an all-year competition. So we'll see what happens.
You said April 1st?
We'll see what happens. Yeah, April 1st is when they start spring practices later this year.
Wow, because Prairie View's Purple and Gold game is on March 28th.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, I saw that.
Interesting.
Yep. Good thing it is starting late, because if it started earlier, you still haven't officially announced your staff additions. So there's a little bit of time for you, an opportunity to get those guys in and hit the ground running.
Absolutely.
And in some cases, you're there even before you're officially, hired.
Yes. And the way they get around that, in some cases, I can't say most or all, they'll bring a person on as a consultant, while they're maneuvering the paperwork to bring them on as staff, and then they just transition on in. And it becomes an official hire, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Well, on that note, we'll take a timeout. First of today's show. When I return, I'm scheduled to speak with Coach Van Pettaway, former men's basketball coach at Alabama A&M. He joins me next. You're listening to the Carlos Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com.
We'd like to recognize the sponsors. Attorney Lee Van Richardson, located at 1047 Austin Street in Hempstead, Texas. Their phone number is 979-826-8008. Diva Skin Conditioner, located at divafeet.com, D-I-V-A-H feet.com. Their phone number, 903-270-0026. Prairie View Athletic Club, serving student athletes since 1986. Their phone number is 936-857-5817. Temple of Refuge Ministries, located in Prairie View, Texas, at 45372 Old Highway 290. Brazos Valley Schools Credit Union, several locations to serve you. Katy, Rosenberg, Brenham, Bryan, College Station, and Waller, Texas. Their phone numbers, toll free, 855-391-2149. If you or your business would like to be a part of the sponsorship team here at the Open Mic Broadcast Network, contact us at 832-213-8824. Have sports, we'll travel. The Open Mic Broadcast Network serving student athletes from Little League, high school, and collegiate coverage right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network. From coast to coast, from dusk till dawn. You can catch all student athletic action right here at the Open Mic Broadcast Network, the station designed with you in mind. Serving the community through faith and athletics, the Open Mic Broadcast Network, the voice of student athletics.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Coles Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. First guest of today's show, former men's basketball coach at Alabama A&M, Coach Van Pettaway. Coach Pettaway, good morning to you, sir.
Good morning. Good morning. We're definitely on the open mic and on the road today.
Yeah, that's right. I understand it. Just be careful before we get into our conversation on today's show. Forgot to mention this, but Coach Lonnie Walker, Coach Pettaway, journeyed this past week, and want to say thoughts and prayers go out to the Alcorn family and the Walker family, and what a good guy, and I'll tell you a quick story about Coach Walker. But Coach Pettaway, I'm sure you had a lot of interaction with Coach Walker.
I sure did. As an assistant coach when he was at Alcorn, and also as a head coach. He was a great guy, great family man. My thoughts and prayers go out to his family, his wife and sons.
Oh yeah, and my first interaction with him, Coach Pettaway, I would Alcorn State was at the F.G. Clark Activity Center, and Coach Shirley Walker is very animated. She was kind of standing the whole time, directing traffic, coaching. And I was like, who is that guy sitting right behind? And then, me, I'm nosy. So at a timeout, I'm watching, and I'm like, they're whispering to each other. And then the guy was like, hey, Coach, that's Coach Lonnie Walker. That's her husband, and he always sits behind that bench during the women's game. And I'm like, hey, ref, watch him. and the referee finally was like, you know what, I had enough. You're going to be quiet. You sitting here, or I'm going to ask you to leave. Okay. But, just the many coaches that you've seen come through the conference, and they just a pleasure to watch. Just a pleasure to watch.
Yep. Awesome family.
Yeah, well, thoughts and prayers go to the Walker family. Coach, where can we start on this one? You saw some games in Huntsville. You got a big game, Alabama A&M women, hottest team
in the conference. Yep.
Yeah. So I guess we could start there.
They're playing an awesome brand of basketball. They're playing together. They're playing inspired. And to watch them beat Southern was a great basketball game, and it went down to the end. And I know that Southern came in there with high hopes, but our ladies were playing, and they did not want to be denied. So it was a great game.
And Coach, the last time they played at the F.G. Clark Activity Center, it was tough, and Southern pulled away in the latter stages of the game. So you going into this game, I don't think, at least from my opinion, I didn't think it was going to be a cakewalk for Southern University. And hey, they lose with under 10 seconds to go, and then Southern has a chance to perhaps send in overtime. But Alabama A&M on the 6-game winning streak, and a half game behind Southern in the standings.
Right, and that's why this is a big weekend. I know Southern has to go down to the reservation, so. But A&M also, they got it tough. They go out to Prairie View and Texas Southern this weekend. So this is a big weekend. It's going to shape up on the women's side as being one of the biggest weekends left on the schedule. Coach,
realistically, we always talk about getting a split. Same thing with Alabama A&M, going to Texas two-step. A split would really be wonderful for Alabama A&M. But if they lose both games and Prairie View right behind them at 8-6 in the conference,
right?
This is two important games for Alabama A&M.
Right, very important. That's why they can't look at a split right now. See, now they're in the part of the season. You put together 6 straight wins. You want to look at trying to take these games. It's going to be tough. but they definitely got to at least beat Prairie View. You got to stay ahead of Prairie View. You want to be able to have that tiebreaker with them because they're the closest to them, and in catching Southern. You don't have any control over that right now. That's out of your hands because there's no more head-to-head competition. You would have to rely on other people now to catch Southern. But you have in your sights the ability to stay away from Prairie View. So that's the mindset that they got to have going into these games this weekend.
Yeah. Alabama A&M 6-game winning streak, Texas Southern on a 3-game winning streak, and Prairie View A&M on a 2-game winning streak.
So somebody's going to stop this weekend.
Oh yeah, and Prairie View, a women's team that had their issues, their adversity, like you have in the season, but
right to lose to Pine Bluff, that was tough.
Yeah, but other than that, they're trending. I guess they're in the spot where they've got a chance that they could be trending upward. Jackson State, pretty much, it looks like they're locked for the number 1 seed. A battle for perhaps number 2 and 3 still open.
Right. That's why there's a lot of basketball left to be played in the SWAC. That's why you play the conference games for races like this coming down to the end.
We're visiting with Coach Van Pettaway, former men's basketball coach at Alabama A&M. Let's switch now to on the men's side. I'm pulling that up right quick. Hottest team, Prairie View A&M, 12-2 in conference, 16-11 overall, 6-game winning streak. Texas Southern 10-4. Boy, they had a huge loss to Arkansas Pine Bluff. They on a 1-game losing streak. Southern University, they come to the state of Alabama. 4 in a row. They won a 4-game winning streak. And Alabama State was, no disrespect to Alabama A&M, but Alabama State previously came in, they were hot as fish grease. And Southern goes in and gets a 12-point victory. Then they followed it up that Monday. They made a mad dash at Alcorn. They fall short. And then Southern goes to Huntsville, which I'm thinking after the Alabama State emotional game, then they come in and they just took Alabama A&M to the woodshed.
They annihilated us. That was one. I'm gonna tell you something. Mm-hmm. That was one of the greatest defensive efforts that I've seen from Southern in a lot of years. They were on point. I had an opportunity to talk to Coach Woods before the game and after. He was excited before the game, looking forward to the contest, saying that he knew his kids were ready to play. And doggone it, when they got on that floor, they showed it. And you're talking about Alabama State was hot as fish grease. Well, see, Southern came in there and dropped a bunch of potatoes in that grease and just cooled it down. It brought it down to us. So see that's what you get in the SWAC. That's what you get in the SWAC. That's the kind of basketball that these teams are playing right now. And my hat's off to, I'm serious, Coach Wood did a remarkable job. Anytime you can hold a collegiate team to 16 points in the half, you've done something. And that's what they did Monday night in Huntsville.
Coach Pettaway must have felt well. The guy who, when he was at Alabama A&M, that defense extended 40 minutes of hell. And Southern came in. Would you say 40 minutes of defensive
yes, they
pressure?
did. I'm going to tell you something. From the opening tip until that buzzer went off, they were all over A&M. They turned them every which way but loose. They got up into them, and I'm serious. It was done on the defensive end. So Coach Woods, he's got them in the right mindset right now. He's got a big game at Alcorn this weekend, so they got to have that same mindset going into the reservation, onto the reservation. Yes, sir.
And Coach, speaking of that, kind of had a little outside looking in discussion with Alcorn State. You got a chance to see them. That the 3-point shot, they live and die by that.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a chance that maybe they'll change that philosophy for next season? Because I know they're going to live and die by it now. How is that to their advantage, or has teams now finally they know how to defense Alcorn's offensive philosophy?
Well, I think because of this being the second half of the season, they've had a chance to see them in person the first time. That's why teams are being able to make adjustments with Alcorn. And I think going into next year, it's going to depend on recruiting. If they can get some people that can score on the block, I think they have a more balanced attack. But right now, all he feels that he's comfortable with is them jacking up the threes. If they're on, they'll beat anybody. But if they're off, they're going to struggle.
And see, I guess, Coach, because I'm not a coach, to me, that's like living on the edge to me.
Right.
Just like you said, you can shoot yourself in the ball game, but you can shoot yourself out. Right.
And see, A&M got into them, and I just think that they got to find a way of having a more balanced attack.
Right.
Even to finish off this season, they got to find a way, because A&M got into them and beat them 71-61. I think they got to find a way to have more balanced attack. But see, they missed the shots on Saturday night, but evidently they found them again on Monday because they went into Alabama State and took care of them.
Yeah, and they had a big lead, and boy, they had to hold on for dear life. And of course, I'm always going to keep a critical eye on Alcorn State because they're Southern's travel partner, and besides what happened in football.
Right.
So, and I have some dialogue with Alcorn State fans, so I try to keep up with what they're doing. So this matchup, kind of, if you can, a quick little preview today, Southern and Alcorn State.
Well, I think if Southern goes in there and they got their defense ready to play, they're going to be okay, because Coach Woods, he's picking them up from the time they get off the bus. And in Alcorn's case, when them kids walk out the door, Southern will be there waiting on them to pick them up. They're going to apply pressure. They're going to put some pressure on them, and I think the pressure will get those jump shooters out of their comfort zone. And if that happens, Southern will walk out of there with a win. But that's going to be a great game. That's the highlight game of the conference schedule this week, in my opinion now.
Wow, someone just texted me. Could we get that pressure in football? Oh my. Okay. Well, now we'll leave that one alone. And Coach, for on the women's side, some really frustration, I think, from the outside looking in for Alcorn State women. Although they were picked to finish 9th in the conference, and when I talk to Charles Edmond, he talks about Alcorn State women. They're able to do this, turn teams over. They get a lot of turnovers. They force, but somehow that has not transitioned into Alcorn State women getting things done. Now they're below 500 in the conference play, and quite simply, listening to Alcorn State's broadcast, Coach, they turn people over, they force turnovers, but they go into these droughts offensively where they can't score.
Right. See, they're forcing turnover, but they're not capitalizing off of them. See, when you force a team to turn over, you need to be able to capitalize on it, because not only are you scoring, you're demoralizing your opponent when you can do that. And if they'll just turn them over and not capitalize, that team still has the momentum. You haven't broken their momentum when you're not capitalizing on the turnover. So that's going to happen. That's going to happen. If they're not going to score off of those turnovers, then the turnovers really are useless.
Good point, because you hear that every week, Charles. They have the ability to turn teams over, but I guess you can't expect teams to adjust or change what they're doing, because the conference season is almost over and end of the season. But that's going to be an interesting situation with Coach Pruitt down at Alcorn State on the women's side.
Right. Hey, Carlos, can we go back to the men? I want to bring up something.
Go right ahead, sir.
What Texas Southern team is going to show up on the men's side? Because this was a very tough weekend for Texas Southern. They lost to Arkansas Pine Bluff, and they barely barely squeaked out a 2-point win over Mississippi Valley. So now if you're playing the two teams at the bottom of the conference and you're struggling, what does that say about your team going down the stretch? So you need to keep your eye on Texas Southern now because something's not right.
Something's not right. And they got Alabama A&M today. And then I guess they got Alabama State Monday.
Right.
I know I could throw out a cliche as sometimes you play to the competition, but then you don't want to be disrespectful because you need to, at this point of the season, you need to win and win convincingly when you can.
Right. When you see that mosquito, you kill that mosquito with a doggone sledgehammer, man. You don't go fooling around with it. That's the mentality. That's the mentality you got to have going down the stretch. This is the stretch run. It's only 2 weeks left in this season. Your teams have to be mentally focused and ready to go. You cannot have these missteps. If you want to win a championship now, if you're out there just playing, then continue to play. Just roll them out and just let the season end. But if you want to win a championship, they got to get off of their butt and they got to defend and they got to get out the people.
So in other words, if we play word association, when I say Prairie View to you, Coach Pettaway, on the men's side, what word describes them?
Outstanding. Outstanding for Prairie View. Outstanding.
Texas Southern.
Undecisive. They don't know where they want to be right now. Do they want to be the cream of the crop? Do they want to be the cream of the crop, or do they want to be the grains thrown out in the coffin?
Yeah, well, and with 2 games back, and they still have to go on the road to Alcorn State and Southern. Speaking of Southern, words to describe them right now.
Awesome. From what I saw this weekend, awesome.
I would have said hungry.
Yep.
But because I talk to me at about 7:00 tonight. I'll tell you how if I'm really excited because going down to the reservation in spite of what we've talked about and how I've talked about Alcorn State. Yeah, that you've been in that gymnasium, that arena. Strange things have happened.
Yeah, that's a tough place to play. So Southern has to go in there with the right mindset. They got to have the right mindset to go in there and come out with a win. But they have the talent. He plays a lot of people. Do you all realize Southern is the only team in Division I basketball that does not have a double-digit score? They do not have the only team in Division I basketball that does not have a double-digit score. They're spreading the wealth. So when you're game playing for Southern, you can't just key on one person because you never know where it's going to come from.
And Coach, I don't know if you noticed, but there's a freshman who literally 2 or 3 years ago, or even 2 or 3 months ago, you would still say, how did Southern get in? Mr. Burns, his high school classmate, signed with the University of Rhode Island. But I remember watching the Prairie View Southern second conference games, and the commentators were talking about how he looks the part, and he's still a freshman. But to your point, the future looks bright. Oh, yeah, Southern men's basketball team.
Right. And I remember I'm the one that told you all that the Jaguar Nation be patient and give Coach Woods an opportunity. See, in our league, don't forget the doggone pre-conference schedule. Your season should be based on what you do against your SWAC opponents. And he's showing that they're ready to play. All you can ask for, you're in the top 3 in the league. You can't ask, other than the championship, you can't ask for much more.
Yeah. I was talking about, hey, if Southern can get the fourth spot, that would be a big improvement from the previous year. Coach, we appreciate the time as always. A listener says, DQ says, Coach, a lot of ball left to be played, so standings fluid, but do you see any coaches potentially on the hot seat, or does all this parity help out since everyone is so bunched together?
Well, because I am a coach, I never look at another man's job or look bad on them. I think the parity should keep everybody in their place. Remember, I'm one of the ones that's always said, in our HBCUs, unless it's a morality thing, we should never fire a coach, because you don't have everything that you need to be successful in the first place. So that's my mindset. That's my mindset. Now, we got enough coaches in this league that are getting it done. Leave the coaches alone and support them. If the fans want something, support the programs. Put some money out there. Once the money gets there and they don't do anything, then now it's time to make a change. But until they have everything that they need to be successful, leave them alone. There should not be any hot seats in the SWAC.
Is that including football coaches too, Coach?
No. I ain't got nothing to do with football.
Okay.
I got nothing to do with football.
Because, you talk about basketball.
Listen, in most cases, the football coaches in the SWAC have more than enough to be successful. Okay? So they're okay. They're okay.
Okay, I just wanted to get that clarification. I thought I'm starting to quit. Talk about all the coaches.
Hold on. I want to make sure. If I'm sorry for interrupting. You were just talking in reference of basketball, right, Coach?
Correct, basketball. Yeah, I'm only speaking for the basketball coach.
Oh,
yeah, you sweating over there too, Dr. Prince. I understand.
No, man, I'm just trying to get an understanding. That's all.
I'm only speaking for the basketball coaches. And I want to bring up something too. Today, the reason why I told you I was on the road, I'm in the great city of Birmingham to watch the high school basketball championships. One kid who played for me for 4 years, his team is in the championship game, and I'm down here to wish him well. So it makes me feel. Huffman High School coach Steve Ward played 4 years in the SWAC, and so I'm looking forward to watching his team come out of here with this victory this morning.
You're not going to grab a clipboard, Coach, and help him out?
No. I don't need to help him. This young man has won 33 games. He knows what he's doing.
I know that's right.
Yep.
I wish the best for them and bring home that championship because, hey, he played in the Southwestern Athletic Conference. He's great in my book.
Yep.
Well, Coach, as always, we appreciate the time and especially traveling on the road. Godspeed to you. And we'll talk with you next Saturday at our regular scheduled time. But as always, appreciate you and have, sir, a great weekend.
Okay. Hey, thank you, guys. And everybody be blessed. Have a safe rest of the week. And we'll talk to you next week.
Yes, sir. Coach Van Pettaway, former men's basketball coach at Alabama A&M. Once a coach, always a coach, and basketball is still in his blood. Hey, we appreciate his time as always. And, boy, I was sweating there. He said he's talking about basketball coaches, not all coaches, but that's going to be interesting. We will also discuss some baseball. Got some of the scores from yesterday and the schedule for today. Now, coming up next is Charles Edmond of the Alcorn State Radio Network. And then following Charles, we'll close out the show with Marlon Rogers of Recruit the Boot. We'll be talking some of recruiting as far as Southern University. And, teams are still signing those that are able to do so in sports, student athletes, football, albeit they'll still be adding some players. We'll ask them about the 2021, recruiting season. Now, coaches are evaluating and getting offers ready, for the next class. It just seems like it's always an ongoing situation. It's a year-round situation. Take a time out. Charles Edmond comes up next. You're listening to the Carlos Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com.
Be the one with courage to fight child abuse.
All Texans must find the courage to fight child abuse.
Learn the signs and symptoms and report suspected abuse to appropriate authorities.
Learn and know these warning signs.
A child who undergoes changes in behavior, appetite, or routine.
Watch for unexplained injuries, a change in academic performance, or loss of interest by a child in regular activities.
Trust your instincts. If you suspect something, do something.
If you believe a child is in an abusive situation, please call the Texas Abuse Hotline at 1-800-252-5400.
Be the one with courage. To find your local Children's Advocacy Center, visit onewithcourage.org.
On behalf of children, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Broadcasters come into our lives on radio and TV, bringing us information and entertainment. Broadcasters are there for us, but who is there for them when they fall on hard times? The Broadcasters Foundation of America provides financial assistance to broadcasters in acute need due to a critical illness, accident, or other serious misfortune. If you know of a broadcaster on the air or behind the scenes who may need our help, please share our message. Visit broadcastersfoundation.org.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. Guest number 2, Charles Edmond of the Alcorn State Radio Network, one of the busiest professionals in the profession. Charles, good morning to you.
Good morning. Good morning. You're right. It's a busy time. Softball, baseball, basketball.
Well, call you Superman because you're all over the place. You are.
Or call me crazy. One of the two.
Oh no, I wouldn't call you local. No, you're doing what you love. Albeit, you get tired at times. That's human nature. And speaking of that, we're going to talk some basketball. We'll talk a little bit of baseball. But the tip that you gave me a few weeks ago has now been officially announced. 2020 baseball tournament, officially in Jackson, Mississippi. Kind of get your thoughts on the tournament now officially being announced in partnership with the city of Jackson and the Southwestern Athletic Conference.
Well, I have two views on it. I have a personal view and I have a professional view. And from a professional perspective, and of course, we're SWAC supporters, so we kind of support what the SWAC does. And we know what the commissioner has said. He wants the tournament to be at a place that wants us, and he wants the tournament to be at a place in which the conference is going to make a few coins out of it. And obviously in Jackson with Tim Bennett, y'all know if you remember Tim Bennett, he was a guy that helped get the Mississippi Braves in Jackson. He helped build Trustmark Park. He also built the new ballpark. It was not new now, but he helped get a minor league team in Biloxi. He helped build a minor league stadium in Biloxi. And he has infused some dollars, along with the city of Jackson, into the conference's coffers to have the tournament in Jackson. His plan is to have an academy like it is in New Orleans, the MLB Urban Academy. He wants to have something similar to that in Jackson. And so as a part of that, he's partnering with the conference to kind of help get that off the ground, get his name out there a little bit, and with that, bring the tournament to Jackson and to Smith-Will Stadium, which in years past was in need of a lot of improvements, and they've made those improvements. AstroTurf and new, basically a revamped facility. And the only question was, would it pass SWAC muster in terms of the facility, in terms of the improvements? We're going to improve Smith-Will's, but of course that's just talk. But they actually, went through with it, and they actually backed up what they said they were going to do. And I guess the conference made the tour, and it passed muster. I was told that the only issue was the lights. And apparently that issue has been solved. So they had the press conference the other day, And not only, Carlos, is the SWAC tournament going to be there in 2020, but but Conference USA is going to be there in 2021 to have their baseball tournament there. So obviously Smith Wills Stadium has gotten the attention of the SWAC as well as another conference to have their tournament there. So professionally, I get it. I understand it, and it's kind of centrally located amongst the schools in the conference. Even though Alabama A&M baseball is not eligible for the tournament, so all 4 teams in the Eastern end. And of course, from the western side, you got schools as close as Grambling and Pine Bluff close by. It's going to be a little bit of a haul for Texas Southern and Prairie, a 6-hour ride. So professionally, I get it, but personally, I like New Orleans. I went to New Orleans a couple of weeks ago, and someone said, "How in the world can you go wrong with New Orleans? They've hosted Super Bowls and Final Fours, and here we are, pulling out of New Orleans." So it's, I hope it. I'm one of those that just believes the tournament should stay in a place, and if it's successful, stay there. But there were some concerns about New Orleans facility-wise, concerns about the expense of traveling New Orleans, hotel, and all of that, improving the facility, improving the dugouts, expanding the dugouts there. There was no indication that was going to happen. So nonetheless, the tournament being in Jackson, and let's hope that it's successful there to where it will be popular and successful.
Yeah, well, early in the show, I said after a year or two, so a reasonable time, you can look at the data and it'll let you know if it's successful, and then you make adjustments as necessary. You'll know whether it's going to continue to be there. I know on social media, and I know you have to be careful about social media because sometimes the fans go back and forth on, should it have stayed in New Orleans, moving. But at the end of the day, you want to see this new move successful, because if it's successful, it's good for the conference. Whichever teams get there and they're playing their best ball and they win it, they're going to be excited. So hopefully this whole new adventure will be, a good thing for the Southwestern Athletic Conference. And so 2020, they're moving.
I do think, Carlos, if you recall, last year the commissioner used Roger Cato, a longtime Southern coach, to help get a situation where I think there was some push to maybe keep it in New Orleans. And I think by bringing Roger Cato on board to kind of help with those relationships in the Baton Rouge, New Orleans area to try to help maybe one last push to keep the tournament in New Orleans. But obviously it did not work out to where it could stay there. I know the coaches had concerns about the dugout sizes, and that's more of an MLB decision more so than a Wesley Barrow decision. Because MLB built that facility, and unless they're going to put some money into it to expand the dugouts, that wasn't going to happen. And the whole goal of that program down there is for youth baseball. So the dugout sizes are going to be smaller anyway, but it wasn't conducive for college baseball, which you have bigger rosters and all that. They have great fields, they have great indoor batting cages, all that was great. And I thought that the grandstands and all that were fine, but the dugout sizes, I think, were probably the bigger concern, and there was no effort. It wasn't going to happen to where the dugouts were going to be expanded. So I think getting Coach Cato on board, I thought was a good idea by the commissioners, just to get the pulse to see if maybe he can provide a change, but that obviously didn't happen. And the tournament's been in Jackson before. It's been in Smith Wills before. So it's nothing new. And I think with 3 teams, you got Alcorn, Jackson, Valley, they'll all be there. And I was talking to Omar Johnson about it last night.
I know he's happy.
He's
not happy.
Well, I think he's concerned a little bit about the fact that the tournament's in his town. So there's an assumption that Jackson State University, Bob Bradley Field, will be used as maybe a practice facility to where teams can go and take BP and all that. It's kind of funny, but he's concerned that he's going to be put to work in terms of getting his field, having constant preparation of his field to where teams might want to come and take BP and all that. I think that's his only concern. And then the other thing too, obviously his team will probably stay in the dorm during that time when school's out. And that's a concern for all of our teams as well, when during that time in May, because you're not playing a lot of baseball and graduation's already taken place. But that's a concern for all of our coaches during that time of year in terms of keeping their team focused, keeping them on campus, having to feed them and all that, as compared to take them to a hotel, which would be in New Orleans, and dealing with it that way. But that's something that you can't control. I'm sure he'll get with his AD and Ashley, and they'll get that worked out. But Omar's always, Omar's Omar, and I've been around him a long time, and that
he's got to be a team player. you tell him I said that. Come on, he's got to be a team player. Come on.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I think once the dust settles, once we get closer to it, he'll be fine. But Omar's Omar. And he is who he is,
and I'm gonna put the pressure on him. They should be favored to win it in the home. Who said 7-8 years ago when we were having this discussion? Baton Rouge, New Orleans, great places to play. And what did I say? It's more pressure when we need more pressure on Southern playing in Baton Rouge. But it was many thought was the best atmosphere.
Yes.
Best place to play it at. So now I'm extending that courtesy to Jackson State. They'll be favored.
Well, like I said, I have a professional side of it, and personally, I like New Orleans. And I'm just going to go back in the time capsule. You couldn't beat Baton Rouge when it was at Heinz Field. I'm not, and I'll say that till the day I leave here. That was the years that it was there. The weather was crazy, but when you had all the tailgating, you had the food, you had the chicken wings and the snowballs and all that. People remember it when it was there. It was just great camaraderie. It was great atmosphere. You couldn't beat it, and I'll take that. I'll take that to my grave because I thought it was terrific when it was there. I hate that it left. New Orleans was okay. I think Jackson will be okay, but I thought the best of all the places the tournament has been: Shreveport, Fort Worth, Jackson twice, Baton Rouge, New Orleans. We've been all over the place. I thought the Heinz Field of Baton Rouge, to me, was the best SWAC baseball tournament environment, and I'll stick with that.
There would be many that would agree with that. There would be some fans that would not agree with that because they felt that Southern had an advantage because they were playing in Baton Rouge. I point to the point is more pressure when you're playing in your home city.
Yeah,
that's just
I
me.
Agree.
No,
yeah, you're right.
Not a scientific theory, but just an opinion. Just an opinion. So, with that being said, SWAC Media Day in Atlanta. 2020, we exchanged text messages. I think it's a one-year thing, but just my opinion. You have the gala, the conference gala is going to be that Friday in Atlanta. Your thoughts on it?
Well, you are exactly right. I was talking to a SWAC official about an hour ago, and this source told me that is correct. The only reason why the media day is in Atlanta is because it's in conjunction with the gala. Yeah. The plan is next year to go back to Birmingham. Now, that being said, with in years past when media day was in Birmingham, it was in conjunction with the SEC media day, in which you had 1,000 media people there. And you could piggyback off of that either before or after SEC, and you could get some of that, additional coverage. But with SEC Media Day being in Atlanta now, at least for the short term, that's it. We're kind of out there on our own, and I thought the numbers were good for Media Day last year. And having it in Atlanta in conjunction with the gala, I get that. That's a good move. And we'll just see going forward. Will Media Day continue to be in Atlanta, or will it go back to Birmingham? I was told the plan is for it to go back to Alabama, so we'll see. I think it'll determine if there's a lot of media presence there, Carlos. I think there'll be some energy to keep it in Atlanta. But you want to have it in a place where it's in your footprint. We hear that all the time, and I think Atlanta, of course, that's the home of the SWAC MEAC Challenge, Celebration Bowl. Do we get a lot of coverage from Atlanta from the Atlanta market covering SWAC. I don't think so, but that could be a start of something. Who knows? But I'm anxious to see, and we'll be there. We're anxious for, we'll see all the TV stations in Atlanta. I'm sure a lot of the urban stations might do some stuff there. So it could get the attention of a lot of people when we go there in July. But I completely understand, and I agree with the whole idea of having it in conjunction with the gala that takes place.
Visiting with Charles Edmond of the Alcorn State Radio Network. Now, Charles, let's get down to the crux of the matter. Big ball game. We'll start Southern Alcorn State. I mentioned your name with Coach Pettaway. He got a chance to see Alcorn and Southern in Huntsville last week. On the men's side, Southern 10-5, the conference play. Alcorn State 9-6, Grambling State 8-6. Southern on the 4-game winning streak. If we switch over to the women's side, oh boy, Alcorn State 7-8, Prairie View A&M 8-6, Alabama A&M 6-game winning streak. They're hot. 10-4 in conference. Southern 11-4, half game behind Texas Southern 11-3, and in Jackson State 13-1. Quick preview. I mentioned you again with Coach Pettaway about Alcorn's women's basketball team. Every week you talk about turning over opponents. That's what Alcorn State women, they're good at that. But he said they're not finishing. They're turning opponents over with turnovers and stuff, but they're not capitalizing on it. And they go into these droughts. I was listening to you again, Charles, and it is a complete pattern. Alcorn women they go through these droughts. They don't score. So they've got Southern University, who's coming off a loss to Alabama A&M. Set the mood for the women and the men on the reservations today.
I think it's going to be some excitement. I mean, I think for the men, clearly, I think the men control the keys to that number 4 car, meaning the number 4 seed. Mm-hmm. I think if the Braves handle their business at home, they will be at home in the first round of the tournament. I think there's only one team that I can see pushing Alcorn for that 4, and that's Grambling. I don't know if Jackson State's going to be able to get over that hump, even though Jackson State's in position. They still got to go to Bama State and A&M. They got to play Valley, Pine Bluff. Jackson's been kind of up and down, but Grambling's a team that can be scary. And we're going to have to probably win 3 out of 4. Well, we'll probably have to win at least 2 out of 3 at home to put ourselves in position to secure the top 4. If we don't, and, we got the top 3 teams coming in here over the next week. Yep. I think Grambling's a team that can get that 4 seed, and we might wind up playing at Grambling or vice versa, hosting Grambling. Grambling right now is playing pretty well. And I remember 2 years ago, Grambling, they weren't eligible for the tournament, but they won the regular season, having to go to Bama State and A&M at the end. And, they got Pine Bluff and Valley coming up at home. I think they'll handle those 2. So I think for the men, if we're gonna make some noise, this is the time. You got the top 3 teams coming in. We beat Texas Southern at their place, ending a 25-game losing streak against TSU. We won a gut check game that we had to win the other night against Bama State. If we didn't win that game, we really would be on the outside of the top 4 with little control. But now we've got control. So for the men, it's all in front of us. Either we're going to take this car and drive it, or we're going to drive it off a cliff. It just depends on how we handle it. For the women,
what a way to put that one, Charles.
Well, I mean, that's you got control of the car. I mean, you got the keys, you got the map, you know where you got to go. This question is, are you going to be able to get there? You can either drive it to where you need to go, or you're going to drive it, sideways. It just depends on how you handle that. For the women, we've had opportunities to put ourselves in position, and it's been the same story, unfortunately. And I just think we're just using so much energy on the defensive end to create opportunities that we just can't finish. Point blank opportunities, chippies, bunnies, as they call it, those little short jumpers, 6, 7, 8 feet from the bucket. You can't finish those. And then we're struggling at the free throw line. So, Courtney Pruitt believes that they're going to get this figured out. We're probably going to be on the road. I think mathematically there's probably one or two options to get us there, but I don't think we're going to get there. Other teams have to lose, which they're probably not. And even if we went out, we'll probably come up short on the tiebreakers. So our women are probably going to end up on the road. I think we can be a 5 seed. If A&M keeps winning, they could be a 4 seed, and we could be going to Huntsville. I mean, I'm just looking, my little crystal ball, which is cracked, but I think I think that the top 4 for us is probably not going to happen. We're going to be the women are going to be on the road. It's just a matter of who that 4 seed is going to be. I don't think we'll drop any lower than a 6 based on the standings. So we could be a 6, we could be a 5. So we could be the 3 seed, Southern University or maybe A&M in the first round. But we have to play better, clearly. We've got to be able to execute and finish offensively. Defensively, we're going to get all the opportunities we want because we can create tons of turnovers. But if you don't convert on those, it's going to be tough. So hopefully we're at home. Hopefully we can work on some things. And we're a little banged up. We're going to be without one of our bigs, Aisha Kirkland, who's got a hip injury that's going to keep her out for a period of time. So we're going to be a little shorthanded. But we got to figure out a way to win at home. And if we do that, then finish at a 5, hey, I think we'll feel good about ourselves going into the tournament.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how the rest of the season plays out for the women. I do talk to some Alcorn State fans, supporters, and they are very concerned with the women's basketball program. But they have to play the rest of the season out, and then at the end of the day, the people of influence will make the decision. And here's the thing. I heard from one Alcorn fan that's really torn. Pick 9th on the women's side, and they have superseded the 9th prediction. And if they're a 5th or a 6th, that's better than the prognosticators said they would do. Then you have to make a decision. But then you're also frustrated because Alcorn State was doing even better, but now they've kind of come back to the middle of the pack. So I guess it is tough being a director of athletics, in that situation. So that's why I'm saying you have to let it play out to the end of the season. But some Alcorn State fans are concerned about on the women and the men's side, but specifically on the women's side, Charles.
Yeah, I would say that to go from not making the tournament last year, if you can finish at a 5, is that enough to say maybe a 1-1, a 1 year plus a school option or a 2-year deal? I mean, who knows? I would say for the men, if they can win out and even push for maybe a 2 or 3 seed, then I think it's worthy of another crack at it with Montez Robinson. But again, you have a new president that just started July 1. She's evaluating everything. I would say, on the men's side, it'll be interesting because, the coach of the year conversation, on the women, it's not about necessarily the regular season. Who wins the regular season is the coach of the year. The women, they're about which team had the biggest improvement. If you're picked to finish 9th and you finish 3rd, that's a 6-spot improvement. And Tanya Edwards, previous Lady Braves coach, won coach of the year, didn't win the regular season. That's just how the women vote for their coach of the year. For the men, obviously, it's regular season. You got Byron Smith. That's the head coach at Prairie View. They're in 1st. But if the Braves went out and some other things happen and we finish in 2nd, you go from a Braves team last year that just barely got in at 8 to go from 8 to 2. Some could say Montez Robinson or maybe even Southern's coach Sean Woods. If Southern continues to win, could you make the case that one of those two could get a lot of votes for coach of the year? Probably not, because it's about to make a season champion. But I think for the Braves, these last 3 home games are going to be critical in terms of evaluation of the program, because you got 3 at home. You should be able to get it done at home. The men get it done at home. They're going to play it at home in the first round of the tournament, and then you just go from there.
Well, it'll be interesting, Charles, as we get ready to in this week's segment. A scenario. Dr. Prince is the AD, Charles Edmonds is the AD, and Carlos Brown is the AD. Under the scenario that you just mentioned, which Alcorn coaches would have to be worried about if they had to go between the 3 of us as far as director of athletics to secure another contract? And I won't hold anything personal. I'm just interested, just having a little fun.
I think you're the hard liner in the group. Carlos Brown will be the last one on the list. I think I'm probably a little easier, but I have to make the tough decision if I'm an AD. I would look at everything. Courtney Pruitt made changes to her staff. She unfortunately had to let go some people, her entire staff last year. She's got a pretty good staff. Coach Payne, the former men's coach at Valley, who was Coach Pruitt's boss at one point when they were at Wiley College. There's been a heck of a difference just in terms of organization and all of that. I think that staff is going to be pretty good if given the opportunity. On the men's side, clearly Montez likes a lot of hands on deck. So I'm probably the softer of the 3. I know, Carlos, you're probably the harder of the 3. And Dr. Prince, I think he would really have to take a long, hard look at the. I think he would have to take several deep breaths and do a deep dive into the program.
Okay, I thought he was a silent assassin, but I'll show you what I think.
Hey, man, I'm not that bad, am I, Carlos?
No. Actually, I agree with y'all. How do you say, know your strengths and learn your weaknesses and know them. And, I would agree with that.
Well, just like we discussed earlier, a lot of times people will jump on the coach and say, get rid of the coach. But you have to look at it. The administrative has to coach the coach. And if you're not giving that coach what they need to be successful, can you really fire the coach under those pretenses? And but in the same breath, you have to be realistic and address those difficult situations head up, and don't let it fester up and act like nothing's going to happen, or act like nothing's happening, or it's going to work itself out if you just be patient. You can be patient, but you can also have a sense of urgency. Like the duck on top of the water, he looks calm, but them feet are moving. And it's more than just money. You have to make sure that the coaches are in position emotionally, psychologically, and in some cases spiritually to get done what they need done. And until you get that full gamut, tomato.
Yeah. And that balance. I have to look at the whole picture. Is there a reason why my coach got to the championship game and just fell a little short? I've got people in my ear talking about, hey, that's not bad, is it, Carlos? No. But championships even increase enrollment. Does he have all the tools to work with, the resources? What kind of staff did he put together? Is it the best staff that he could put together? How much resources we got dedicated to, the assistant coaches? And so I know it's not an easy job. I know that.
But that's why they pay you the big bucks too, though.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, you're the CEO of that program. And whether fair or unfair, the buck stops with you.
Absolutely.
So, it's just interesting. But I agree with Charles.
So, Charles, you're going to be the soft guy.
I would say I'm kind of the softer of the 3. And I'm just looking at our program, just where we were picked and where we are, and just watching every play of every basketball game in conference. men and women, I would say that both coaches deserve another bite at the apple.
Well, especially on the women's side, because you've seen the results that they've gotten with this, and then you got to give the men's side a chance for another recruiting year to add to their outside weapons.
Well, I do know on the women's side, we've got a 6'3" coming in. Coach Pruitt confirmed that to me not too long ago. Our recruiting class looks strong. We need a post. We need post players. We got a 6'3" coming in next year. Mm-hmm. And that's gonna be a tremendous help because Coach Payne's a good defensive coach and a good one-on-one coach. So I think if we get a post that's pretty decent, we just feed it into the post like Doriana Lewis of Alabama A&M. I mean she's terrific, and we're gonna have a pretty good post presence next year. And for the men, I just think that we've done a good job at home. We've let some games slip away, but I think we've stayed the course. We had 3 tough games on the road, and we caught 3 teams, Jackson, Southern, and Grambling, on the uptick. But now we got 3 in a row at home. I tell you what, if we play at home, talking about the men, and win and get to Birmingham, it's a no-brainer on that side. And I think for the Lady Braves, probably going to be on the road. If we get A&M again, which is a possibility as a 5 if we do what we're supposed to do, I think it's going to be tough for A&M going to Texas to winning 2 games. I think they'll probably drop those 2 over there. So if we handle our business today and pick up a game and a half over the next couple of days, finish at 5, take on A&M at 4, and go over there and win, then there's no question that both coaches deserve more time. Some might disagree just based on the previous record and what's happened in the last few years, but when you're looking at a program, or you're looking at the here and the now, or you're looking at the last 3 or 4 years, I mean, if you go from not making the tournament to finishing 5th, is that worthy of more time? If you go from going from 8th to maybe 3rd or 2nd, Braves still have a shot at that, by the way. On the men's side, is that worthy of another bite at the apple? So there's some questions to be asked for sure.
Well, we'll end it on this note. A listener will identify this listener as a Alcorn guy. He just simply says, maybe time to make a change. Interesting. Alabama State at Prairie View A&M. UAPB at Grambling State, 3 p.m. Mississippi Valley State at Jackson State, 3 p.m. Southern at Alcorn, 3 p.m. That's the women's side. And Alabama A&M at Texas Southern. Monday, March the 2nd, of course, Southern and Alcorn are off. Mississippi Valley State at Grambling State, 5:30 p.m. Alabama State at Texas Southern. Alabama A&M at Prairie View A&M, 5:30 p.m. And UAPB at Jackson State. To me, besides Southern and Alcorn, the game of the day is Alabama A&M at Texas Southern on the women's side. That's a big one. Alabama A&M, hottest fish grease right now. But what they've done, they could very well be 0-2 after the Texas 2-step. Or they could be 1-1 on the possibility 2-0. I think it'll fall somewhere in between. They very well could go 0-2 in Texas. And that 4-game winning streak could turn into a 2-game losing streak. But it should be interesting, Charles. We appreciate the time. Of course, I'll be listening in on the broadcast. And Coach Woods just texted me and said, defense, Jags, defense. A lot. Oh, boy, what a good one. Fortunately, I'm not going to be able to be there, but I'll be listening to the broadcast.
That's a shame, Carlos. I was hoping you would come. I talked with our police chief. They were going to escort you in on campus and take care of you while you're here and get y'all excited. And we're looking forward to your presence on our beautiful campus.
But you know what, Charles? That will change when Southern starts winning in that football game. Watch how it changes. I'll get the treatment like Jackson State then. Watch what I tell you. And hoping that day coming. Whether owners will be there or not, we shall see. But that day will come. Have a great weekend, Charles.
All right, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, appreciate it. To all of them of the Alcorn State Radio Network. Quick time out. When I come back, I'll visit with Marlon Rogers of Recruit to Boot. We'll give him the rest of the time on the show. You're listening to the Carlos Brown Show on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com.
One voice. It can get the point across, but it only carries so far. Add a voice. It's richer, louder, but that has limits too. Add a third voice. It's even more powerful. Add another, and another, and many, many more. And we are stronger than ever. That's the power of a community coalition. They help community groups, faith groups, civic organizations, PTAs, employers, and many others in your community organize their resources and focus them where they're needed most, like fighting to keep kids away from drugs. Ask a group that you belong to if they should belong to a community coalition. It's easy to get involved. Visit helpyourcommunity.org and they'll tell you exactly how your group can help. That's helpyourcommunity.org, because you get more when we get together. Brought to you by the Office of National Drug Control Policy and the Ad Council.
Chris, can you put the video game controller down for a second?
I can talk and play. Oh, I'm totally annihilating this punk kid in Nebraska.
I just feel like you're not acting like a grown-up in our relationship.
Am too.
Well, you still ride your skateboard to work. There's the comic book collection, the race car bed.
Look, I'm young at heart, but I put money into my 401k every paycheck. I picked up a few savings tips at feedthepig.org. I have control over my financial life now, and that feels pretty grown up.
Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. Putting some money from every paycheck into a savings account or contributing to your 401k can make a big difference later. For free ideas and easy tips on ways to save, go to feedthepig.org. That's feedthepig.org.
So, I bet I look like a grown-up to you now.
Well, except for the footy pajamas, I'd have to agree.
This message brought to you by the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show. Heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. Final guest of today's show. He'll be in today and as a guest next week, Marlon Rogers of Recruit to Boot, recruiting service, a jack of all trades and a master of them all. Marlon, good morning to you and Happy New Year, sir. It's been a long time.
Oh, you're far too kind. Happy New Year. Good morning. How's it going?
It's going. Football season, albeit the season's over. Recruiting is ongoing. Marlon, I've seen some lists already for 2021. Offers are going out. But I want to get your perspective on the Southern University 2020 class. And this week we'll kind of look at the in-state signees and get your thoughts on the Jaguars and what they were able to accomplish.
Yeah, not as talkative as I once was, but always keeping my ear to the ground. 2020 recruiting class, you saw Southern kind of stick to the script. I mean, you obviously need linemen, especially the way that we were handled by Alcorn State once again. So we went the JUCO route, we went the high school route to get some defensive linemen, some big bodies that can rotate in, stop that running game, get some penetration, and hopefully at least keep ourselves within distance of winning that game as we did this year, but just kind of wore down. So hopefully with some more depth and some more bodies up front, you'll see that change. You saw us go back the wide receiver route, and we went back with some big body wide receivers. The transfer portal has been kind to us in the past. I think it's going to continue to be kind to us this year, looking at the transfer guys that are either on campus or arriving on campus shortly. So it's a pretty exciting class when you start to get into the numbers and start to dig into the film. We get started on whomever you like, Carlos. I'm ready.
Well, in-state, I'm going to focus on this week, And I'm pulling up some information. Carlin Davis, defensive back, free safety, Higgins High School. Kind of your thoughts on him. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but you've seen this guy a lot and you know him.
I do. I actually got to know Carlene personally myself, just through going to high schools and going out to practices. I've seen him since his freshman year. He's an athlete more to me than more than a safety. And I'm going to actually lump him in with two of the transfer portal guys who are Louisiana natives, Austin Jones from McDonough 35 and Curry Ben from Landry Walker, who's a Southern Miss transfer, Austin being a Memphis transfer. Because all three of these guys remind me of the same player. They can play any position you need on the back end. They can play the field corner, the boundary corner, free safety, the slot. You probably want to keep them away from strong safety because of size. All of these guys are probably around the 6 foot, 170 to 180 pound area, but tremendous ball skills for all three. They stay in phase with receivers. They're not deep. They have long speed. This goes for all three. All three will contribute in special teams, although I would probably give the edge to Davis with that just because of his open field ability. With Davis, you see him really excel in the slot. He's got long arms. He's not the biggest of kids, so he's got plenty of time to work on that. But he's got long arms that allow him to cover a little more ground, which is where you put your quick guys in the slot to try to use all the field that they have. He's a willing tackler and comes up and runs support surprisingly more than you would think at his size. He's able to disrupt from the line, uses the sideline as his friend. Not as much as Ben does, who does that probably the best. But I think you end up seeing Davis either end up at the one high free safety or in the slot, which is what I would prefer, because I think he can just cover that entire ground since those slots get so much room.
Marlon, do you see now when you say you recruit a DB, but they're interchangeable? If you play, if you're a corner and spots, you can play safety and vice versa, or is it still specialized where you put your DBs at?
I don't believe that it's specialized anymore. I believe that your corners, and when I say corners, I say all three, because you see so many three wide receiver sets now. You have the nickel cornerback has become basically a starter these days. Most of your corners can be one high safeties based off athleticism, but do they have the smarts and the instincts to do it? And that's the difference between corner and safety, free safety primarily for me. Free safety is very instinctive, reading the quarterback's eyes, staying deep is the deepest. Bill Belichick always says you can't win games with a dumb safety. I 100% agree. You got to have somebody back there that's smart, that's not going to be faked out by the quarterback's eyes or double moves or anything of that nature. So corners, you're going more off your athleticism, your technique, your hand usage, your footwork, more than a free safety because they're roaming. But those two are pretty interchangeable. Strong safeties these days are more of a hybrid, be able to defend the tight end and running backs coming out of the backfield. But these days, that's what you're asking from your outside linebackers too. So you're looking at strong safeties kind of interchangeable or hybrids with linebackers, free safeties, cornerbacks being interchangeable. I think these days you're just recruiting the best athlete, get him on campus, let's see what he does best, and let's get him out there and win some games.
And speaking, you mentioned linebackers. I'm looking at Marcus Martin, comes from an outstanding program, John Curtis. Got him listed at defensive end, 6'2", 240. And watching him on tape, you remember yesterday I said, what's the chance of him playing linebacker on the collegiate level?
I think linebacker is where his future's at. I do. Because when you look at his film, he's a guy that wins off pure speed. He was at the high school level, like you said, absolutely dominant program, probably still the best program in the state, if not top 3, top 5 in John Curtis Christian and River Ridge down in the New Orleans area. But he wins off pure speed. You see him attack the tackle's outside shoulder frequently, very often. A lot of times he's past the tackle before they can get out of their stance. So you're looking at a kid with a good first step. you'd like to see some more inside movement, see if he's got any counter moves, because when you get to the college level, you're not going to beat every offensive tackle with pure speed or one step or anything of that nature. You're going to have some counters. You're going to have some additional hand usage. I know he has it in him because when you see him play the run, you see a kid that holds the point very well. You see a kid who sets the edge very well. He can use some work on disengaging a little bit better, but you see the strength there just by being able to hold the point. He's not getting pushed back 5, 6, 7 yards on a run play, which is something we desperately need kids that aren't going to do that, because when we wear down in the second half versus Alcorn, we tend to see that often.
Visiting with Marlon Rogers of Recruit the Boot recruiting service. Now, a young tight end that you were excited about yesterday when we were exchanging text messages from Cecilia High School, and I'm trying to pull that up, but you can get your thoughts on him as maybe, some would say maybe the steal or a sleeper.
He is. I can see where the concern came in on his size. His arms don't appear to be the longest. But if Southern fans remember a tight end that we had on campus for quite some time, Randall Menard, who seemed to be a touchdown machine and was a tight end, and he was running away from linebackers and safeties often, Ethan Howard looks like the same thing to me. He looks like a big body wide receiver. Anyone who's an NFL fan, he kind of reminds me of Evan Ingram. I'm not comparing him to him, but that's what he looks like. Can line up in the flex, can line up outside. He can line up in line. He's a willing blocker. Cecilia really focused on him. Post routes, jump balls, fly routes, screens, used him as a decoy. He was really a focal point in their offense, opened up a ton of things for them. Surprisingly, you don't see a lot of kids at his size, 6'3", 230, that are tight ends that line up at safety as well, but he lined up at safety for them as well on defense. He's a little bit of a body catcher, which I'm sure coaches will work on with him. You'd like to see him use his hands more, bring it in very easily, and then just keep going. But he's got good speed. Like I said, a willing blocker. You see him running away from people at the high school level. They play at the 4A high school level, which is pretty good in the state. So he's one to get excited about. Like I said, he reminds me of Randall Menard. Anyone who knows the Acadiana area knows that Cecilia and Brobridge are neighbors. So, and rivals. So, yeah, that area, it seems to be doing well for us. It's a clone. I'm excited about what he can bring. If he can do half of what Randall Menard did while he was on the bluff, fans will be excited.
This is with Marlon Rogers of Recruit the Boot. I was looking for the young man, goodness, that signed late from Catholic High. That's my absolute. He's going to be a track athlete and football. That's my sleeper of the draft, but I'm looking at also Michael Rambo Wicker, defensive back for Southern Lab. But I am trying to remember, and I had it in my notes. I
believe you're thinking about Braylon Morgan
from Catholic High.
From Catholic High, yeah.
Oh,
he was the speed merchant in the backfield of them, and the kids could run, all of them. Him, Josh Parker, there was a third running back they were rotating as well. All of those kids could run. I believe Braylon did sign late to Southern University. That's a pretty exciting signing. He's a home run hitter, special teams contributor, catches well out of the backfield, good vision. That's another one that I got to see grow over the past 2 or 3 years as his playing time at Catholic, which is ultra competitive at the 5A level, or Division I with this split that we have. That's another day. Yeah. I don't want to get started on that. But yeah, he's a speed burner. He can be a great change of pace for the downhill running backs that we enjoy and that we've seen recruited over the past few years, such as the kid from St. Martinville last year, Benjamin. Really like that addition. It was a surprising addition. I'm not sure anyone outside of the recruiting specialists on campus and the coaches expected it, but very well a pleasing one. I'm pretty sure everyone will be pleased. And he's a Baton Rouge kid through and through. Great kid, great parents.
Marlon, I saw him play against Edna Carr. And, Edna Carr reputation precedes them. I'm like, well, great matchup early in the season. He literally just he shined in that game.
When you see kids running away from an Edna Carr defense, you know that they've got an extra gear.
Exactly. And now, what's his measurement?
I don't want to give you I don't want to be wrong because I don't have the exact measurements.
Okay, I don't either. That's why I thought maybe you know.
Yeah, I will put him somewhere in the, I would say maybe 5'9"-ish, 160, 170 pound category. He could be larger, and he may say, "Hey, I'm much larger than that" when he hears this on Twitter. But he runs that way, as if he's a smaller running back. That just creates separation. But he runs hard. I've seen him run through tackles just as well as anyone else. That's the thing. He runs with the attitude. He runs like he's been an underdog for a long period of time, and he has something to prove. And you like kids with that chip on their shoulder, and Morgan apparently has it. Maybe he feels that he was overlooked for whatever the reason is. I can tell you that his coach, Fertitta, will speak very highly of him. And myself, watching several of his football games and seeing what he can do, I speak very highly of him. I mean, Catholic would not, even with the split, Catholic would not have been in 2 state championship games as runner-ups and winner of state championship game without players like him.
Yeah, I was looking on social media, on Twitter, and literally, basically, the Catholic coaches are like, folks, he's still available. And they were kind of surprised he wasn't getting as many looks, but I just figured, I'll just be brutally honest with you, I just figured he'd end up going to a state school like a Nickel or Southeastern. And for Southern to get him, I was smiling, to be honest with you.
So I was able to pull up some numbers real quick on him. They list him at 5'7", 160. This likely hasn't been updated, so I'll say 5'7", 170. He's got a shuttle of 4.25. If you've been watching the combine like I have, that's still great change of direction. He's at an 11 flat 100, a 22.03 200 meters, and a 36.5 inch vertical.
Oh, that's why it's a long jumper, broad jump.
So exactly, that's exactly what the vertical is going to show you, and that shuttle show you is that instant burst, that immediate burst. So that
offensive coordinator,
if you're not excited with those numbers, I don't know what to say.
Well, utility back is what I see. Touches, in different spots.
Get them 8 to 10 touches a game. Jet sweeps, screens, swing passes, reverses, whatever it takes. Get them touches, get them open field, and let them run the daylight.
Yeah, well, maybe in the next few weeks they can announce the new offensive coordinator.
That's my biggest concern coming up is spring ball is right around the corner, and we don't have a full coaching staff, and we've got to install offenses, install defenses, install calls. You're going to have coaches that come in that may want a quarterback to do one thing and not the other, or a running back to do one thing and not the other, teaching different techniques. We got to get on the ball with that. Can't put it all on Coach Odoms and the staff that's there.
Well, I have 9:58. Got about 2 minutes left. I'm going to ask you a quick generic question about 2021, and then we'll have you back next week. But with the assistant coaches, they just haven't announced officially who they are, but they're in place.
Okay,
they're
great.
In place.
Great.
So with that being said, to your point, yeah, you got to move quickly. 9:59 here, a minute left. Marlon, 2021. The outlook.
It's not as deep as 17, 18, and 19 in my point of view. The talent level you're still seeing at the same places, that I-10 corridor from Lake Charles, Lafayette, Baton Rouge, New Orleans. There are a few cutoffs. If you're a big football fan, the Baton Rouge area is going to have some really good teams. Zachary, Catholic. Catholic will be playing IMG out of Florida second week of the season, by the way, so you may want to clear your schedule on that one. We've got the best defensive tackle in the country in the state of Louisiana, Mason Smith, down in the Bayou, Terrebonne. Walker will have some really good talent. A few guys I think Southern should look at: Garen Stansberry out of Franklin, Sabian Jones out of St. James, Coach Valdez, who's a Southern grad, is the coach over there. Byron Turner, St. Augustine. Iverson Celestine out of Fontainebleau, Jamarian Henderson, McDonough 35, legendary Wayne Reese is the coach. His brother's at UL Lafayette, and he's a former teammate of Austin Jones, who just transferred to Southern. Just a few guys. And one more we should look at Baker High School. The name will ring a bell. His dad's the coach, Eric Randall. His son is a defensive back and a pretty good one. When he walks off the bus, you notice he's very good size.
Well, on that note, quickly for those who would like to reach out to your social media contact.
Social media contact, the best one is still Twitter at Recruit the Boot. It's spelled just as it sounds. I'm very responsive. Get jumping back into it. Got a few plans in mind. Got a few things. Got a few ideas that I want to go with. We'll see how it goes. Before I go, Carlos, one quick thing, because you mentioned my guy, Damari Burns, earlier on the basketball team, and you mentioned his teammate, Greg Hammond, who's at Rhode Island. He's in the transfer portal right now. Somebody get Coach Woods to give him a call.
Oh, watch out, Coach.
He is a talent.
He's probably listening.
Hey, he needs to stay away. Greg is a Louisiana kid. He stays home. Come play with Damari.
Coach Smith at Prairie View.
No, go away. You chose to leave. You chose to go west. Stay west.
Oh, yeah.
But Greg is in the transfer portal. That Sophie B. Wright team is super talented. I'm a big fan of Damari Burns' game, and I'm so happy he's this up.
Appreciate the time, Marlon. We'll see you next week. We'll have you back.
No problem. Talk to you soon.
All right. Appreciate it. Marlon Rogers of Recruit the Booth. Oh, boy. Somebody says watch Dooley. Indeed. Eric Dooley. Oh, yeah. He's going to recruit Louisiana. On that note, I want to thank Dr. Michael Prince, Coach Van Pettaway, Charles Edmond, and Marlon Rogers. Appreciate everyone who's listening in. Make sure you join me next Saturday at 10 a.m. to 12 noon for another edition of the Carlos Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. Until next Saturday, as always, enjoy your weekend. Peace and God bless.